collector of wooden toys and buttons. So the first half of our show is going to be about wooden toys. So, Miss Robinson, I'm going to pass you the mic.
Okay. Well, actually, I call these BTV toys because they're the types of toys that people made to entertain themselves before the days of television. I was a 4-H club agent, and I found out back about the 1974, something like that, that children did not know how to do anything to entertain themselves. And I had grown up on an isolated farm because it was in a little cove, and the only way we could see out was straight up until we got electricity, which was when I was a senior in high school. My older brother had already gone to college. But anyway, we invented a lot of our play, and I believe you mentioned a while ago that you had something that we called a ziz wheel.
Yeah, tell people what that is.
Well, a ziz wheel was the center rim of a wagon wheel hub, and then you either used a stick or you used a heavy wire, or in your case, I believe you said you had a pipe that you used for pushing the wheel. And of course, we invented all kinds of games with it. We would use a little narrow plank and see who could run across it, and who could jump the mud puddles, and all kinds of things like that with it. And so I'm sure you guys have played some of these types of games. Well, since the children really didn't know how to do anything, I went home and got that old ziz wheel that we'd run 1,000,000 miles to the barn and back with, and made a tin can telephone, and
which really works.
Yes. Oh, they were used.
I'm going to lead into
They were
you.
cheaper.
I promise not to kiss you, but unless you want me to. But I'm going to lead in so I can talk to the mic sometime.
All righty. Okay. The telephone was actually used before telephones were, and they could be heard a city block away.
Just from a string?
A string,
And a
and
tin
you
can?
a tin can,
Had
2
cheaper
tin
rates
cans.
than Verizon.
Yes, definitely
A
cheaper.
city block away?
A city block away. And I think they put rosin on the string.
Oh, yeah.
To help to carry it maybe more. But yes, that's what I've understood since I got to doing a little bit of research on some of these old toys. And so anyway, I decided that I would try to encourage the children to make some toys of their own, and I thought I would get a few things together, and that has turned out to be quite a collection. And so what I have brought today, I'm calling useful toys. First of all, I'd like to tell you about how I really got started with the collection, though. My grandmother had a toy that when I was about 8 years old, of course that was pre-World War II, and it was from Japan, and it was some little chickens on a board, and they had red feathers, and it made a nice little sound when you played with it. And so one of my 4-H clubs gave me $10 for Christmas one day. And I thought, well, what will I do with that $10? And I decided, oh, I know. There is a man up around Baxter that makes the chickens a pecking toy. And I went to some craft show somewhere where I knew he would be. And so I bought that toy. Now this is the sound it makes. And if you want to get a close-up on it, you can do that. But you just make the balance. And this is a type of a balance toy. You just make the balance go around and around. Now there's another one where there's just one chicken a pecking, And instead of making the balance go around like that, you make it go just back and forth. Well, you know, that wasn't the sound of the toy that I knew. Okay, so I happened to be out at Sewanee one day, and there was a little store out there, and back in the back of the store, under the bottom shelf, sitting on the floor, was a market basket. And in that market basket was this toy, which was similar to it. And I looked at that and I knew that that had to be the old Japanese toy. The feathers were gone, the string was gone, the balance was gone. They wanted $2.98 for that broken toy. And back about 1970s, that was a large price to pay for a broken toy. Yeah. So I did it, and that was a smart thing to do. My sister found a toy maker near her who prepared the toy for me, made this balance, which I don't remember what kind of a balance was on the old one that my grandmother had. And they sent me these feathers, and I put them on. And they're not the red feathers, but here's the sound. See? And that was the sound that I remembered from my childhood. Now, if you would like to get a close-up view of that. And so that began my collection. And I have quite a number of those types of things now. And later on, we'll share some of those. Now, another thing that I found, big one, okay.
Which one?
Middle one, okay. Alrighty. So, I said I brought, I said I had brought the,
Now, Max, you sitting in a dangerous area.
okay, yeah.
You want me to do
Okay. Yes, in just a few minutes. All right. Now this we call a rattle trap. And the first rattle trap that I got was one, I believe, or might have been that one. I don't recall which of these really came first. But this one is a small one, and it's one that you might use at a party or something like that. But this one came up from in West Virginia. There was a man by the name of Dick Shanakey, that when the coal mines of West Virginia closed and the people did not have income, he went up there as something kind of like a domestic Peace Corps worker, and so he got the people to doing home industries, making the kinds of toys that they remembered, and this was one of those. And so you can notice that it doesn't make much noise, but it makes a difference in the kind of wood that they are made from, and the way in which they were made. This one, I believe, is one that I found at a flea market in New York. And it's rather mild too. Here's another that has two paddles, and so it has a little different sound. But these old ones go back.
It sounds like an old biplane trying to start.
Okay, these go back to.
Let me get out of your way.
Oh, no, I'll let him do this one. Okay, these go back to the Revolutionary War that I know of. Now, so these were used during the Revolutionary times on the boats to tell those guys to get ready for war. And then in World War I, it was used to warn of poisonous gas. And this old one, which I found in an antique shop in Cincinnati, Ohio, says on it, for use as a gas alarm only. So I wonder if it was one of those old things from World War
It must be.
One. Now, I first thought that maybe these things were the predecessors of our smoke alarms, and that, maybe they used in the city where they had gas. But,
Well, it would have been a predecessor to a siren or a tornado warning horn or anything.
anything of that sort. But, of course, they probably didn't have tornado warning horns back then.
That'd wake you up.
Good job there, Dave.
And this one, I certainly don't know the history of it, but I think it was evidently one of those that was really used. Because if you just look and if you feel the weight of it, and I do not know the kind of wood this one is either, but you can get a sound of it.
Might be
Like one of them old slapjacks from the police department.
Max, slide your mic over and let her use yours, and then you and Ray can share so I can.
Yeah.
Now, this one here, it looks like this definitely is an older one because it's got a brass plate with straight screws. Right?
Yes. You can see that would really call you to battle. Now, in World War II, these were used in England to call the people to the shelters during the air raids. And I happened to be up at Townsend doing a program, or one of their festivals, and there were two fellows there, and one of them said, well, in England, it was used for that. And another fellow spoke up and he said, well, I'm from the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, it's used by the garbage man. And the garbage man says, I'm coming down the street. Be sure your
Make sure
garbage
you
is
have
out."
your can out there.
And then in Colombia, South America today, I happen to have a friend from Colombia that lived with me for 2 years. And so she tells me that in her country, they do not have iron ore for making church bells. And so on Good Friday, it's used to call the people to church. And the one that we have now is the most modern one I have, and it's from Mexico. And so you can,
That'll wake you up.
That is,
you bet.
that's amazing that a piece of wood can make that loud of a noise.
Well, pieces of wood can do a lot.
Yeah.
Now, this one,
Enough of them can build a house. You know that?
oh, that's right. Okay, and this one is called a smoke grinder, and this one is a bit crude, and I'll use another in just a few minutes to show you that it can be used for starting fires or it can be used as a drill. And in Alaska, I saw the Eskimos drilling ivory with this contraption. Okay, and I have another Dick Shanakey toy, and I do have a little seat for it. That keeps it from sliding around like the other one does. And this is the way it's drilled.
And you start the fire by laying the stuff between
The
that.
tinder.
Uh-huh.
And you could, well, you
And
could
what
do
did you
that.
tell me that you caught on fire with it?
Well, I had a table cover,
Uh-huh.
and I started to show somebody how it worked. And the first thing I knew, I scorched my table cover. So it will start a fire. Very
Simple,
easily.
the simple tool. What do you call that?
We call it, as a toy, we call it the smoke grinder. And I guess since it could be used as a fire starter, that may be an appropriate name for it. But interesting.
Yes, real interesting. Keith, see if you can find that. Smoke starter or fire starter, wooden? Wooden?
Smoke
Smoke
grinder. Or you might try a primitive grill, primitive drill.
Yeah.
Because it was a primitive drill.
That is really, Max?
Is anything like a jingamali?
What's a
A
jingle?
hula wada? A hula wada?
Smoke grinder or a jingamali?
Sounds like you're lollygagging now.
Lollygag.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Now don't you set nothing on fire.
Oh, I'll try not.
Well, not you. I'm worried about Max setting something on fire. You know, he'll get to playing with it and set the counter here on fire or something.
Okay. Well, spools were quite often used for making toys, and for
And the reason that was is every lady sewed at home, and she accumulated a lot of spool.
those wooden spools.
Yes.
And-
Every lady had a sewing machine, didn't he?
Well, I don't know that. No, not everyone.
If they didn't have a sewing machine, they had some good needles.
They had some good needles and some busy fingers.
Yeah, there you are.
Because I did have an aunt that didn't have a sewing machine, and I remember that she made a dress completely by hand.
Yeah. Well, isn't that how they quilt too? Don't they?
Oh yes, and they quilted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they pieced their quilts by hand, like my grandmother did. My grandmother lived to be 103, and she quilted every day until after she was 101, and then her eyesight got to where she couldn't.
Didn't they get together and have quilting parties?
Oh,
Pull that
oh,
mic
yeah.
over there,
Yeah.
Max.
Didn't they get together and have quilting parties?
Yes, they had quilting parties and quilt all day, and Sunday school class would quilt, and the senior citizens would quilt. Of course,
But
they
now
didn't
they
call
actually,
them that.
they would actually, when they get a quilt done, but they'd actually date them and stuff too a lot of times,
Yes,
wouldn't they?
sometimes. They would.
Because I've actually seen some that had dates on them. In the late 1700s.
Oh me, you're lucky.
That was an old.
And
Idle hands and idle mind wasn't the workshop of a young
No.
person in those days.
oh, definitely not. Just a string of spools would make a toy for the baby. And see, if they didn't have a lot of toys for babies back then. And of course, the first thing that happened when they got a hold of that string of spools, that they went right straight to their mouth.
You can see that live today. You can get a kid anything you
Yeah.
want to, and they'll play with the old box that come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure will, won't they?
Yeah.
And then another that they did from the spools was to make spool dolls. And might get
Looks like
close to
some
that.
artwork there, that face.
And so the spool doll would entertain the children. And
This here kind of favors Max.
Oh, I was getting ready to say the same thing.
I knew you was. That's why I said it first.
okay, and when I was going to school, all the boys had a spool in their pocket, and we'd take the old broken pencils and old broken crayons, and we'd make either a spool racer, or we would make a spool tractor. If we made a tractor or we also called them caterpillars, and
It had to be notched, though, right?
we'd notch the edge of the spool, and of course every boy had a pocket knife in their pocket, and
Yeah.
so
And you could actually carry them to school.
yes, sir.
Now,
You played mumble peg too.
Yeah.
Did you ever play mumble peg?
Uh-uh.
Oh, did you guys ever play mumble
I played
peg?
darts one
I've
time.
heard of it, but I never played
I
it.
played darts, and this boy dropped a dart, and it went right into my foot. So that's yard darts.
Oh, well,
Hey, you said something interesting earlier before the show started about the crayon. It lubricated the
yeah.
the little wheel.
Yeah. Okay. This toy is made with a spool, and the one that I happen to have in my hand has a rubber band through the spool, and on one end, the spool was notched and a little piece of wood was put in to hold the rubber band. On the other end, it has a small washer, and then it has a stick. Well, of course, we used our broken pencils, and I think we used the crayon, if I remember correctly, in the place of the washer. But you wound it up, wound up your stick, and then you laid it down, and you would challenge your friends to a race, or you'd see which one would go the furthest or which one would go the fastest.
I can remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
remember making them.
mm-hmm. And of course, today, a lot of people don't have wooden spools. And so what you could use is, I guess we would call this one a modern one, because you see it's a piece of dowel stick with a hole through the center, and there's two little tacks to hold the rubber band. And then on the other end, they have put one of those little manufactured wheels, and which it can be obtained from wood supply places. And then, of course, they've used a piece of dowel stick and put a little notch in it for the rubber band to go around. And it works just as well. And, another thing that was used for that, I forgot. Okay, if it had the notches in it, they would go up. Well, let's say there's a new married couple in the community, and they would slip up and wind it up, and then they'd let it hit against the window.
Part of the chivalry.
Yeah,
Chivalry?
part of the chivalry. Uh-huh.
Would you talk real briefly about Mumbly Peg?
Mumbly Peg. Well, let's see if I can remember. Mumbly Peg, you took your pocket knife,
Yeah.
and you put out the short blade and the long blade, and you held out your hand, and you would stick. Let's see, this short blade. The short blade, I believe, stuck straight out, and the long blade stuck up at a 45-degree, 90-degree angle. Which is it? Anyway, an L shape, and so you would put it on the end of your finger. The tip of the blade would go on the end of the finger, and then you would flip the knife. And if it stood up, if the big blade stood up, I think it was 100 points. And if the little blade stood up, it was 50 points. Or if it stood at an angle, it was 25 points. And you counted your points. Okay, when the game was over, like we played this in 7th and 8th grade, I think it was. And, of course, when that recess bell rang, why, the game was over. And the loser, the one that had the lowest number of points, you took a little piece of wood or a little stick, and each player got to one strike to drive that little stick in the ground. And then the loser had to get down and pull the stick out of the ground with their teeth. Uh-huh. And
I'd say you was the winner most of the time, though, wasn't you?
no.
You wasn't? Did you ever have to pull the stick out of the ground?
I don't remember that either. Of course, I wouldn't remember that.
Of course not. I believe you won all the time.
Okay. Now let's see, what else do we have around?
Oh,
here?
yeah. How about our little bird? He's wood.
Well, he's wood, but
He's
he
different.
He's different, but he's not the useful toy. He's somebody's
now you're getting a useful toy.
creativity. Now these are clickers. They're just little metal toys with a little piece of metal behind them, and they were useful during World War II. The paratroopers carried these in their pockets, and then after they had jumped from the planes, why, they could locate their comrades by clicking their little clickers without the enemy realizing what it was. And those are probably some that were really of that type. And it's interesting to see what else you find. These are poisonous frogs of the rainforest. And in the rainforest, you'll find some very bright colored little frogs that are poisonous.
Well, like this one here is orange and black and got a little bit of white in it. Mm-hmm. And that's, what would you call that, purple and?
Well, it's a purplish blue, I'd say. And then a light blue, and it's
Got some
black spots in the light blue part of it. And here's one that's chartreuse. And then here's another that's sort of a dark teal blue, I guess, with the legs are teal. The body is black with the yellow stripes down it.
Yeah.
So they have same sound. And then the little boys probably had their police outfits, and here's one that is a police badge, and then there's another that's a clown, and here is a little one that's it's really a necklace. It could be worn as a necklace. Mm-hmm. And I do have
And it's a frog.
It's a frog. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I have two larger ones. And I have seen one even larger than this, but that was one of those times I made the mistake of not getting. So they have quite different sounds too.
Max, is that how a frog sounds out on the pond?
I don't know, Dave.
Why, Max?
Hadn't been out on the pond in a while.
You're a surveyor. You should know everything.
And then, of course, somebody has used that same idea, and that's another thing I have found interesting about the toys, is you take a simple idea, and different people have different ideas of the way to put together or something, and here's the same little clicker made into a little wooden bird.
Yeah.
Which is a nice little toy.
All right. I think it's about time. Let's take a little break, and we'll come back, and this is really interesting.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
Shelton Lane Antiques in Manchester has over 5,000 square feet of antiques for treasure hunters to explore. They sell vintage clocks, gas pumps, signs, furniture, and glassware. They have over 3,000 vinyl records and a fully stocked 1950s-style general store. Owners Harold and Ruby Shelton have been collecting unique items for years, and you can start or complete your own collection today at Shelton Lane Antiques. Open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 100 Shelton Lane, just off 16th Model Road in Manchester, Tennessee. Come look around and plan to stay a while at Shelton Lane Antiques, where we sell antiques, but the history is free.
We are Goody Two Scoops.
I love Goody Two Scoops.
A family-friendly, yummy dessert specialty shop in Tullahoma, Tennessee. We excel in self-serve frozen treats and our own incredibly tasty chef-baked creations. For frozen treat lovers, we offer frozen yogurt, ice cream custard, as well as gelato and Italian ice. 85 flavors that rotate each day. 55 toppings, including fresh sliced fruit. For our baked good lovers, Goody Two Scoops offers a variety of fresh pastries at a hometown price. Our 2 certified culinary chefs design and create incredible cakes. We showcase our cakes, froyo cakes, cupcakes, cookies, pies, and chocolate-covered strawberries, offered fresh daily.
Love fighting.
Goody Two Scoops.
All right, are we back? All right, while we was on break, Keith looked up one of these clickers, this blue one here. And this was one of your World War II clickers you said that the Air Corps used to locate each other.
The paratroopers used.
Yes. Now, this one clicker, this is it that I'm holding here, is $75.
Yes, sir. Looks like on eBay there's 4 of them, and he was selling them one at a time for $75 a piece. World War II original airborne paratrooper 82nd cricket clicker.
Okay, I'm certainly going to have to look that up when I
well,
get home. So
Yes,
I can,
ma'am.
So those military ones are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
I couldn't find them, and then I searched it by World War II and found a whole bunch of them. Cricket clickers.
Do you still see those out there? The World War II
D-Day.
ones? When you go to shops?
No, I haven't. I don't know when, and I really don't remember when or where I got these.
Well, I hate to tell you, they're probably going to get a little harder to find now since everybody knows that one of them's $75.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah. So now we're going to go from toys to
Buttons.
Yeah, but there's 3 classes of buttons, right?
Yes, as far
So-
as the
Let's give them the definition of buttons. You know about the
ages of buttons.
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's the vintage buttons, the modern buttons,
But
and
the-
the antique buttons.
Yes.
And I believe it's the antique buttons are anything made before World War One or 19 and 18. And then anything from 19 and 18 to 1980 is the vintage, and then the everything after 1980 is modern buttons.
Modern buttons. Now, do you collect all 3, or do you try to home in on?
You just my interest in collecting is not the type of interest that most of the people in our button clubs. And we do have a National Button Society, and here in Tennessee we now have 3 button clubs. One of them meets here in Manchester.
Where do y'all meet at?
We meet over at the Arrowhead to Aerospace Museum.
Do you meet once a month?
We meet once a month.
And what day? And
we meet on the 3rd Thursday at 10 o'clock. And we'll have our meeting that morning, and then we have lunch together usually. But maybe selling our duplicate buttons is a part of every meeting, and we always have an educational activity. Sometimes we have a button dealer come, or maybe a button dealer will send us a box of buttons which are for sale. And so that's the way we add to our collections. Also, at the state shows, now we in Tennessee don't have a state show, but I believe this weekend some of the girls will be going to North Carolina, to the North Carolina Button Show. And they go to North Carolina. Well, Florida is our favorite because it's almost as great as the national show. But it is usually in January. And then we have Indiana, Ohio, and what was the one I just mentioned?
well, you did.
North Carolina. And usually someone from some of our clubs attend those. And at those shows, they have competition, kind of like going to the county fair. like at the county fair, if you were going and you were entering a cake, why, they would have the award written, or they would have a class. They call them classes at the fair, and they are, they would have a yellow cake or a chocolate cake or whatever, you know. Well, in the button group, in the button clubs, they write, they describe the button that they want to compete with, and they call it an award. And then they will tell how many buttons you have to have, what size button, and of course you want to usually get as many different kinds of materials that you can. Now the old buttons are made out of many, many different kinds of materials.
Like
Like
what kind of material?
Okay. Celluloid, of course, that didn't become available until about 1900, and I believe that was the first plastic. Ceramic, earthenware, pottery, satsuma. Satsuma is a Japanese ceramic button. Beautiful old buttons. Porcelain, stoneware, China buttons. China buttons were the kinds of buttons that a lot of the ladies wore on their cotton dresses during the 1940s and about that time. And we'll be talking about more of these later on and looking at some of them. Enamels are very popular and very beautiful buttons. Some might be felt or fabric or textiles or beads or rhinestones, sequins, metallic thread that's crocheted or woven, black glass, clear glass, colored glass, aluminum, pewter, silver, steel, tinned, brass, copper, gilt, then shell and pearls, and back to synthetic. The Bakelite is very popular, and it's one of the more expensive ones.
Bakelite is what they made a lot of radio cases out of.
Oh, yes. And Catalan, which is, I'm not sure just what that is. Polyester, lucite, again, plexiglass, Tenite, and I don't know what that one is, nor...
Hey guys, sorry to stop you. We got a
Nylon.
caller on the line.
Oh, okay. Now,
Okay.
Miss Robinson, you'll have to put your headset on so you can hear the caller. And are you going to turn the volume?
Yes, it's ready.
Okay.
All right, they're probably going to have you a question.
Okay.
Get that out of here. Max, take this out of her way.
All righty, I'm
Yes,
ready.
ma'am. Go ahead. Go ahead, caller. Hello? They hung up. Never mind.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
okay.
Maybe they'll call back.
Well, maybe we answered their question.
Could be.
Okay. Wood. Now, wood and pearl is what I thought I would collect. And there's still my wood I love, but I kind of got away from pearl and got into several other materials.
Well, I can relate to that.
And of course, you can relate to subject matter too. And since we're talking about toys today, I brought along a few buttons that are like toys. Okay, we could go on and on here
Yeah, but
because there's quite.
I think
a
I think
number
the
of
audience
ones.
has got a general idea that buttons are made from a lot of different materials.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And now, what I like to do is to find somebody who has Grandma's button box, or maybe it's Grandma's button jar. And what they have done is just put all of the buttons that they have. And of course, you know, back in those days, when buttons were made of things other than plastic, they kept every button and you reuse them.
Absolutely.
And so they would put everything in the box or a jar, and usually they would be closed up completely, airtight. Well, this is not the best thing for buttons because buttons need to breathe. And so, again, if you put everything in, if you put plastic with pearl, plastic will damage pearl. It will make it turn powdery. And you can easily restore it by just taking a little bit of mineral oil or baby oil and putting it on a cloth and rubbing that button, and it can just look like
It'll come back?
like a brand new one again. And then metal, it will turn metal green, and you can take a little vinegar and take that off. However, you may find that the metal button has already been damaged to the point that you might not be
Just
able
leave the patina on it.
that you can restore it. So that button may be ruined for you. But there is a metal button, a plastic button that looks like metal. And usually they're gold. And they are the worst kinds of things to damage your other buttons. They're called metallic plastic. And so you should not mix them all. Now, if you have celluloid buttons will self-destruct. And they have to have air. If you close them up, what you need to do is open them up every 2 or 3 months or so and let them set open for a day or two so that they can get air. I had the experience of opening a box of buttons that had belonged to a lady who was in a nursing home for about 7 years, and then she died. And her brother showed me these box of buttons.
I tell you what, Miss Robinson, let's hold that thought. We'll just take a break and we'll get back with that.
Okay, all righty.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way. At the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
Shelton Lane Antiques in Manchester has over 5,000 square feet of antiques for treasure hunters to explore. They sell vintage clocks, gas pumps, signs, furniture, and glassware. They have over 3,000 vinyl records and a fully stocked 1950-style general store. Owners Harold and Ruby Shelton have been collecting unique items for years, and you can start or complete your own collection today at Shelton Lane Antiques. Open Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 100 Shelton Lane, just off 16th Model Road in Manchester, Tennessee. Come look around and plan to stay a while at Shelton Lane Antiques, where we sell antiques, but the history is free.
We are Goody Two Scoops.
I love Goody Two Scoops.
A family-friendly, yummy dessert specialty shop in Tullahoma, Tennessee. We excel in self-serve frozen treats and our own incredibly tasty chef-baked creations. For frozen treat lovers, we offer frozen yogurt, ice cream custard, as well as gelato and Italian ice. 85 flavors that rotate each day. 55 toppings including fresh sliced fruit. For our baked good lovers, Goody Two Scoops offers a variety of fresh pastries at a hometown price. Our 2 certified culinary chefs design and create incredible cakes. We showcase our cakes, froyo cakes, cupcakes, cookies, pies, and chocolate-covered strawberries, offered fresh daily.
I love playing.
Goody Two Scoops.
We was talking, you said that that Colt, the gun manufacturer, actually made buttons. Is that right?
That's right.
And you said they're really
and they made
collectible?
plastic buttons.
Yeah.
And they haven't been known very long because it was about 2 years ago I heard them say something about Colt buttons, and I said, "What do you mean Colt buttons?" And they said, "Well, it was made by the Colton Ammunition Company, and there was a time that they made plastic buttons, and so they only knew of about 4 buttons at that time." And I'd say there's a lady right here in Manchester who now, when she is in some of these other meetings, they'll say, "Oh," and say her name, and they recognize her as, I guess, being an authority, and she is what you might say classifying the Colt buttons. And the last I heard the other day, they have now they know 68 different ones.
68 different ones. Are they marked on it? Can how do you tell a Colt button from a?
Well, the Colt buttons are not marked, except I understand the Rouge button. Now, there are different kinds of buttons. Actually, even during the war, they had a button that unscrewed, and they used poison in it, so that if a soldier were captured and he chose to suicide instead of becoming a prisoner of war, he could take his own life with.
Boy, do you have any of those kind of buttons?
I have a Colt Rouge button. Now, the Rouge button is full of makeup, and so my lady could freshen herself by using the rouge out of her button. And I understand that it is the only one that's marked on the back, that it is a Colt button, but I don't think mine is marked.
What color is it?
Mine is, the base of the button is white, and the lid of it that screws on is a light blue, and it has a cameo on it. I've seen a picture
that's
of
a
one.
pretty button.
A black one. Well, we'll talk about some of those different, because there were perfume buttons,
Yeah.
back when folks didn't take baths as often as we do today. They had velvet in them, and it's we're told that the ladies would dab perfume onto the velvet in their buttons. So, but I've mentioned some of the types of buttons, and what I like to do is to find somebody that's got those button boxes and they don't know how to care for them, and they don't know what they have, and we have to identify what material that is made from. The horn buttons, a moth will get in and eat those, and so it's important to know what you have. And so let's talk a little bit more. You asked me the other day if I had an odd button, and yes, I do have. And what I brought today for us to look at were some of the unlisted materials.
Okay, we got about 3 minutes.
Well, okay, I'll show you that button that is most unusual, and I don't think another button collector has one like it. I was in Monroe County in the 1960s, and I had to go to Sweetwater Military Institute to make arrangements for a meeting. And I ended up in the chemistry lab, and there were strings across the top of the chemistry lab, and there were little pegs, or little things hanging on those strings. And I said, "What in the world is that?" And this man said, "Well, I am experimenting with plasticizing pig's eyes to make buttons." And so he gave me one of those buttons. Never did I dream I'd become a button collector.
But it's really a pig's eye.
It is the eye of a pig.
That is amazing.
And
how he was
You must
experimenting.
send that idea out to Hollywood.
He was experimenting with how do you say it?
plastic, turning it into plastic.
Turning it into plastic.
Now I don't know what he was using, but that's what it was, and he gave me one of those buttons, so I have a most unusual button.
You sure do. All right. You know what? We have sat here and talked ourselves out of time, but in a few weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, if you don't mind, I'd like for you to come back and let's really talk more about buttons.
Okay.
Just buttons.
All righty. We'll do that.
All right. We're out of here.